It was the summer I thought would be unforgettable for all the right reasons. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I was 24 at the time, freshly out of college, working a demanding job in digital marketing, and craving a break from the never-ending loop of city life. So, when my mom suggested a family vacation to Lake Arrowhead, I jumped at the opportunity. The idea of fresh pine air, scenic hikes, and evenings spent around a campfire sounded like exactly what I needed. The trip was organized by my mom, Denise, who had a knack for finding those tucked-away vacation rentals. My dad, Gregory, wasn't as thrilled at first, but eventually agreed. My younger brother, Aaron, was just happy to get out of his summer classes. The surprise came when we found out that my Uncle Henry would be joining us. He was my dad's younger brother, a somewhat elusive figure who had always struck me as mysterious and unpredictable. He didn't attend many family gatherings, and when he did, he barely stayed long. I hadn't seen Uncle Henry in nearly 3 years. He'd lived on the East Coast most of his life, working as a freelance photographer. He traveled frequently and rarely stayed in one place long. When he walked through the door of the cabin on the first day, duffel bag slung over his shoulder and his usual quiet confidence about him, something felt different. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, like he hadn't seen me in years and was startled by how much I'd grown. I tried to shake off the strange feeling. The first few days of the vacation were everything I'd hoped. We spent our mornings kayaking, afternoons hiking, and evenings sitting on the deck of the cabin sipping lemonade or roasting marshmallows. Uncle Henry mostly kept to himself, often heading off with his camera, capturing the lake's changing moods or the golden hour sun filtering through the trees. Occasionally, he'd show me his favorite shots on his camera. I admired his talent. His work had this way of capturing not just what something looked like, but what it felt like. One morning, while the rest of the family was still asleep, I woke up early and went for a walk by the lake. The mist hovered low over the water, and the world felt quiet and sacred. I sat on a rock near the shore, taking deep breaths, trying to soak it all in. That's when I heard footsteps on the gravel behind me. I turned and saw Uncle Henry approaching. He gave me a small wave and sat a few feet away, not saying anything for a moment. "You're always up early?" he asked, breaking the silence. "Not really," I smiled. "I guess the lake just woke me up today." He chuckled. "It has that effect on people." We talked for a while about my job, his travels, the books we were reading. He told me about a time he spent a month in the Rockies photographing grizzly bears from a distance. I listened intently, fascinated by his stories, the way he spoke like every moment mattered. He wasn't just narrating events, he was describing life like it was a sequence of carefully composed photographs. But over the next few days, I noticed small things that made me uneasy. During a family hike, he lingered behind when I paused to tie my shoelace, standing a little too close when he didn't need to. During card games, he watched me more than he watched his hand. When I helped clear the table after dinner one night, he followed me into the kitchen, complimenting my smile in a way that felt too intense. At first, I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe I'd just gotten used to being in work mode, analyzing every interaction. Maybe this was just a man who didn't know how to express familial affection properly. But late one evening, something happened that shattered any benefit of the doubt I was willing to give him. It was around midnight, and everyone had gone to bed. I'd stayed up reading on the living room couch. The fire had gone out, and the only light came from the moon filtering through the curtains. I decided to head to bed and walked quietly toward the hallway. As I passed the kitchen, I heard movement. I paused, assuming it was Dad getting water or maybe Aaron grabbing a snack. But when I peeked in, I saw Uncle Henry. He wasn't doing anything, just standing in the kitchen in the dark. I greeted him softly, trying not to startle him. "Oh, Lauren," he said, voice low, almost like a whisper. "Didn't mean to scare you." I smiled politely. "Just heading to bed." He didn't respond. Just stood there, watching me for a second longer than felt normal. Then he stepped forward and placed a hand lightly on my shoulder. "You've really grown into yourself," he said quietly. "Your confidence, it's beautiful." I froze. It wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. That strange edge in his tone. I stepped back slightly and mumbled a quick goodnight, retreating to my room and locking the door. My heart pounded in my chest as I sat on the bed, processing what just happened. I couldn't sleep that night. Questions ran through my mind. Was I imagining things? Was I overreacting? Should I tell someone? In the morning, I decided to mention it to my mom. I framed it gently, not accusingly. I think Uncle Henry's been acting a little strange, I said, watching her face for a reaction. She looked puzzled. Strange how? I hesitated. I don't know, just kind of too attentive. He makes comments sometimes that don't feel right. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she sighed. Henry's always been a bit odd. You know that. I know, I replied. But this feels different. That evening, my dad had a quiet conversation with him outside. I watched from the window, unsure what was being said. Uncle Henry looked surprised, then a bit defensive. Eventually, he nodded, and the conversation ended. He avoided me for the rest of the trip. We barely spoke. There were no more early morning lake walks or photo conversations. It felt like the air between us had changed. On the final morning, as we packed up the car, he came over and handed me a small envelope. For you, he said. No hard feelings. Inside was a photograph. A stunning black and white image of the lake from that misty morning. The one where we sat together and talked like nothing was wrong. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me appreciated the gesture. Another part wished that moment had stayed untouched by everything that followed. When we got home, I tucked the photo in a drawer. I didn't want to throw it away, but I didn't want to look at it either. It became a symbol of something complicated, of boundaries crossed and instincts proven right. Months later, my mom told me that Uncle Henry had decided to move abroad. Some long photography assignment in Eastern Europe. I nodded quietly, not asking any more questions. I didn't need answers. I already had them. That vacation changed me. It taught me to trust my intuition, even when it was inconvenient. It showed me that sometimes, people you think you know can surprise you in unsettling ways. But it also reminded me of my own strength, my ability to speak up, to set limits, and to walk away from discomfort instead of tolerating it. To this day, I still go back to Lake Arrowhead. I've been there twice since, once with friends and once alone. I sit by the same rock at the shore and breathe in that same sacred stillness. But now, I do it knowing I'm stronger, more aware, and more protective of my peace. And I never walk those trails without listening, truly listening, to the quiet voice inside me.